Okay, so I just hit a little bit of traffic here on my way home, so I decided it might be a good time to make a quick video about the Tesla Auto Drive or Autopilot, self-driving, whatever you want to call it. At the moment we are in an 80 zone, but it's only letting me go up to 70. Let's see if that changes with the sign. Yeah, I'll get the person in the back to hold up this iPad, and I'm taking a screen recording of this so I can go through some of the self-driving functions. What we have basically in this model that I'm driving, a 2015 Tesla Model S, is we have cameras that face the front that can be very aware of what's going on around you. So for instance, that was just a speed camera, by the way. Luckily I don't need to worry about that because the speed's set by the computer in this one. So it's painting this white car in front of us, it's painting the line so you can see where we are on the road. It's showing me that it's in auto drive at the moment, and it's showing me obviously the maximum speed that it's set to and what the speed limit is. So all of those self-driving functions built into basically all Teslas from 2014 onwards. As I said, this is a 2015, January 2015, so it's got cameras facing the front that helps it be aware of the environment here. It does have a camera at the back as well, which I can bring up for you. So you can use the camera at the back, as you can see there, to actually see what's behind you, like a rear vision mirror. However, that camera on the older models with the AP1, Autopilot 1 hardware, computer basically, don't have the ability to, the computer doesn't have the ability to understand that camera facing the back. So that's really just for you, not for the computer or for the auto driving side of the car's operation. So why I'm taking a screen recording of this Tesla page, which I'll put up on this video, is it explains what all the different camera angles do in the new cars I should say. You've got the 2019 cars coming out now into Australia. Everything from about the middle of this year, 2019, has the AP3 hardware, which means all of the Australian Model 3s have Autopilot 3, and all of the new Model X and Model S cars coming into Australia from about the middle of the year also have that new hardware. Now what that means is that the cameras that were already in the last couple of years models of the cars, I think they put the last lot of cameras in late 2016 from memory, just need the computer upgraded to actually become full self-drive capable cars. The three different cameras that are in the current cars are basically named on Tesla's website wide, main and narrow. So that gives it essentially a 3D view as you would get with your two eyes facing forward. They also have extra capabilities in the current cars of being able to record one of those camera views as a dash cam footage if you need to, which we obviously will show you in a couple of weeks when we get our new cars for the Tesla Taxi service that we rent out to people. The side cameras, they've got two types of side cameras. They've got the forward-looking side cameras, and they've also got the rear view side cameras, essentially the ones built into the side indicators that face backwards. So between those cameras they actually see all around the car, so you know, much better than you see with your two eyes just facing forward. You'd have to obviously spin your whole head around to get the same sort of view as what the car has now with the extra cameras. So as I said, there's three in the front, essentially four on the side, two each side of the car, and then there's also the reverse or the rear camera, which is now part of the Autopilot hardware connectivity to the computer, so the computer actually reads that rear camera as well. So three in the front, one in the back, which is four, then two each side, so it's a total of 8 cameras in the current systems. Plus I've got radar and ultrasonic sensors, and all of that means that basically the Tesla cars can, as I said, be fully autonomous when the software is perfected. Now, I don't know if I said at the beginning of this video, the main reason I wanted to kind of go over all of this is the Byton, which is another electric car, sort of, I guess you'd almost call it a startup brand. It's, I believe it's a Chinese brand with a lot of English and American people they've taken from other companies like BMW and what have you. They seem to be a really good contender in the electric car space. However, from what I can see, their current car, which they've just unveiled in the last few days, doesn't seem to have those side cameras. So it would seem to me that that car will never be a fully autonomous car, even though it's not even in production yet. So that they would be probably, by the sounds of what I'm saying and what I understand the situation to be, at least 3 to 6 years behind Tesla in having those capabilities. If they did have the extra cameras, you would imagine that Tesla could license, build a computer that could go in their car and then license the software that they're developing to make it something like a Byton or any other type of electric car that has 8 cameras capable of self-driving. But that doesn't, from what I've seen and what I understand, doesn't seem to be on the time on the horizon or on the 5-year timeline for any other manufacturers. Again, to the best of my knowledge currently, so that might change when the car goes into production. But I just wanted to sort of make the point that even a car that looks stunning and looks like it's got all the latest technology, like the Byton, which from what I can tell it does, for a driver, it just doesn't have the capabilities of actually becoming an autonomous car. I believe Mercedes might be a little bit further along with some of their new cars, but again, I don't have any clear timeline as to when any of those are actually going to be on the road, or whether they necessarily will be upgradable to actually become fully autonomous. So I just want to sort of go a bit of a deep dive into sort of how those cameras work and why that is so important, and why I personally wouldn't buy any car that didn't have all of those cameras, because why would you buy a $100,000 or a $200,000 car now that couldn't actually drive you around when others can for the same price or less? So that's kind of the main point of this video, is just the camera systems and the autonomous future of what I see the future of driving and cars in Australia and America and the UK, all the developed countries. I don't know whether India and some of those other places will necessarily get self-driving at the same time, because they might not have the same road conditions that we have. I would hope that everyone's going to get it about the same time, but I'd be thinking that first world countries will have the road conditions that support it better and sooner than obviously places where things could be a bit more sketchy if they don't have the same sort of budget for their road infrastructure as some of the first world countries. The only other thing I wanted to cover in this video, again with that presentation I saw on Byton recently, talking about the drag coefficient, how slippery the car is through the air, so to speak, is the way some people put it. Tesla cars, even their big SUV, the Model X, I should say, with the wing doors, that I believe has a drag coefficient of 2.6 from memory, and then the Model 3 is either a 2.3 or a 2.4, and I think the S is somewhere in between there. And as I said, that Byton car, even though it's a very very advanced and top of the line for any brand that's not Tesla in the electric vehicle space, from what I saw in the presentation, is a 3.0 drag coefficient, which means that it's got nowhere near the I guess you'd call it fuel efficiency if you were comparing it to an ICE car. It uses a lot more power to push it through the air than what the Teslas do. So obviously the fact that you've got a much more aerodynamic design with any of the Teslas, the Model 3, the Model S or the Model X, just means that you are essentially maximising your bang for buck as far as the energy that you need to put in and the kilometres or miles you get out as far as the range per charge. So I just wanted to make that point that it's not just the self-driving technology and it's not just the aerodynamics. There's quite a lot of factors that make the Tesla cars kind of leaders in their field, from what I understand, are the key concerns to a car manufacturer. So hopefully that gives you a good understanding of some of the considerations when you're looking at the new EVs available. And I would hope that we can obviously assist in renting out a Tesla to you. We run teslataxi.com.au, and if essentially what that means is if you wanted to try one of the Tesla cars in Australia, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Canberra, and we are also looking at some cars in WA and Sydney, if I didn't mention that one. We basically have cars that are going to be available sort of on a peer-to-peer system, so someone will buy a car, use it for some of the time, rent it out to other people for some of the time, so you can basically use that car at quite a cheap rate. sort of comparable to almost renting a camera from Avis, Camry I should say, from Avis. Not probably quite as cheap, but if you add up the fuel savings and what have you, it's not dramatically different to actually get into a Tesla and see what it's like to have a car that drives itself. So yeah, teslataxi.com.au if you want to give that a try, and yeah, obviously please leave some comments if you think I've missed any points that are relevant in the EV race in 2019. Thank you very much.